Hare Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very neat conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sri Vyasadeva, the author. Nastataya Sabhadreshu Bhagavata Sevaya regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within our heart becomes destroyed by practice faith and will, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Uttama Shloka Charitam Ishreya Sayalokasya Swasyanam Mahat. This Bhagavatam, known as the Grantha, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srimad Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Surabhaya Namaha. Om Surabhaya Namaha. Om Surabhaya Om Surabhaya Namaha. Welcome everyone to the morning program, including Srimad Bhagavatam. We have a verse from the first canto of the Bhagavatam. What verse? What text? 210. 210, huh? 110. Okay. This is one of my favorite chapters, and a very important chapter for all of us, actually. Entitled Divinity and Divine Service. So text number 10. Kamasya
Kamasya
Nendriya Pritir Labho Jiveta Yavata Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa Nartho Yash Sheha Karmapihi Kamasya Nendriya Pritir Labho Jiveta Yavata Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa Kamasya Nendriya Pritir of desires, not Indriya, senses, satisfaction, labha, gain, jiveta, self-preservation, yavata, so much so, jivasya, of living being, tattva, the absolute truth, inquiry, not artha, and yasaiha, whatsoever else, by occupational activity. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta. Life's desires should never be directed toward the sense of gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Can you repeat that to me? Life's desires should never be directed toward sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Report. The completely bewildered material civilization. I should describe. setting the scene, as we say. The completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed towards the fulfillment of desires in sense gratification. In such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. Politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and ultimately in religion, and even in salvation. The very same tint of sense gratification is ever increasingly predominant. In the political field, the leaders of men fight with one another to fulfill their personal sense gratification. The voters adore the so-called leaders only when they promise sense gratification. As such, as soon as the voters are dissatisfied in their own sense gratification, they dethrone the leaders. The leaders must always disappoint the voters by not satisfying their senses. The same is applicable in all other fields. No one is serious about the problems of life. Even those who are on the path of salvation desire to become one with the absolute truth and desire to commit spiritual suicide for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses only inasmuch as required for self-preservation and not for sense gratification. Because the body is made of senses which also require a certain amount of satisfaction, there are regulative directions for satisfaction of such senses. But the senses are not meant for unrestricted enjoyment. For example, marriage or the combination of a man with a woman is necessary for progeny, but it is not meant for sense enjoyment. In the absence of voluntary constraint, there is a propaganda for family planning, but foolish men do not know that family planning is automatically executed as soon as there is search after the absolute truth. Seekers of the absolute truth are never allured by unnecessary engagements in sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the truth in every sphere of life, and therefore the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth. And that sort of engagement will make one happy, because he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And what the absolute truth is in suspense. Yeah. Translation again. Life's desires should never be directed toward the sense gratification. But one should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. A purport that should be read, especially to our different politicians in the world today, or anyone who is in any kind of leadership position. That is as Prabhupada explains from the very first sentence of the purport, because of our present day totally, completely, absolutely 108% misdirected society, there is a feverish attempt all over the world, because people are misled by such misguided leaders, simply for this false and illusory pursuit of so-called material happiness in the name of economic development, which is a very nice title, very attractive title also. People in, actually, practically speaking, all the countries of the world are being misled in this way, not realizing, not understanding that their attempt at acquiring or gaining the satisfaction, the actual satisfaction that they are needing, because ultimately we do need satisfaction. Ultimately, we need to experience or to find happiness. In one lecture or possibly conversation, Srila Prabhupada explained how happiness and love is the birthright of everyone. It's the birthright. It's like if you're born in a country, automatically you're eligible to vote, to possess land. So many things automatically come by being born in a particular country. So because we are created by Krishna, Krishna, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchitananda Vigraha, he has these three main features or qualities of being eternal, full of knowledge and full of happiness, Ananda. So by nature, the living entity is also having these three qualities. Amaya Vantro, Jiva Loke, Jiva Ruta, Sanatana, we are the parcel. So the part and parcel is having the same features, but the same qualities. We are also eternal, Sat. We are also having knowledge. At present, we don't have full knowledge because we're conditioned by these modes of nature, but we have the ability to acquire knowledge, and also we have the ability, we have the desire as well to acquire or to experience Ananda. And the fourth aspect is that Vigraha, Krishna, he is, that is Krishna's eternal form. He has a form which displays these three qualities of such Ananda. And similarly, we also have those same features, and we also have form. When one is devoid of this knowledge, this understanding, then one falsely pursues material sense gratification, which is also described as material rasa. This rasa, as Prabhupada explains, is the need for all living entities rasa in relation to, we could say, fulfillment of desire. Rasa means taste or mellow, something that all entities require. And if one is not fortunate to know about spiritual rasa, then one will be caught up and simply absorbed and active in pursuing material rasa. That is the whole situation in the world today. And one simply cannot fulfill the desires that are there on the material platform. Rather, the more one is caught up with material activities and attempting to satisfy his material senses. Of course, sometimes people will say, but we have this body, we have these material senses. What is the problem? It's natural. The body, as Prabhupada explains, of course, in the purport, does require a certain amount of the necessities of the body require a certain amount of they need to be met to a certain extent. But the Vedic culture, that is the special feature of the Vedic culture, it teaches us to minimize those material desires and those needs of gratifying the body, which is only possible when we cultivate higher consciousness. When we come to know about the soul, because the soul, whatever desires we have, it's a reflection, isn't it? The need for happiness is a reflection of the spirit soul, which is by nature meant to be eternally satisfied and happy. So this perverted reflection leads people to all kinds of activities to satisfy what is actually meant to be and what is actually is the original need that we have. We have spiritual need, we have spiritual desires. It's like the mind. Our mind is engaged primarily in the activities of living and living. But these are the original activities of the spirit's soul. Be thinking about Krishna, be having sentiments or feelings in relation to Krishna, and to be having desires. So Prabhupada would say we don't have to change our activities, simply have to change the consciousness. Therefore, the Vedic culture, which emphasizes minimizing our material activities, or at least regulating to the point of actually stopping activities of sense gratification, is only possible by awakening our adornment for Krishna. And therefore, again, those who don't have this knowledge or this understanding, they find it very difficult to understand how people in the Vedic culture are not pursuing, as we see in modern day society, economic development. People cannot understand, actually even criticize how the Vedic culture is backwards, because people don't endeavor for material prosperity, etc. But what they don't understand is that when we take up to, as mentioned here, that the goal of life is to inquire about the absolute truth, then automatically, in a more simple and natural way, the various material necessities of life come. Of course, a prime example are the residents of Vrindavan, or anyone who follows in their footsteps. Residents of Vrindavan are the most highly advanced spiritually living entities. They are having the association of Krishna, and they are all self-realized souls. And simultaneously, they are very optimist. In other words, material optimists automatically follows those who agree to put into practice what is like Shastra. We also learn, which is a very important aspect, that whatever arguments, whatever material satisfaction of the senses that we will experience or have in this particular body, in this particular lifetime, is something that's which is something totally unknown to ordinary people. In other words, as mentioned here by the verse and explained by Srila Prabhupada in purport, we don't have to actually strive for material happiness. In the same way that unhappiness comes, material happiness will come. This is very fundamental and important point, which, when properly understood, is extremely helpful in our lives. Actually. No one in the world is making arrangements to be unhappy or to suffer, but unhappiness and suffering comes, as they say, of its own accord. It comes of its own accord means it comes due to the law of karma, due to our previous unbeliever reaping the results of the life. So therefore, when we understand this concept or this principle nicely, as devotees, therefore we don't become overly preoccupied with minimizing so-called suffering or increasing so-called material happiness in the world. It's already, we could say, within our DNA, what will happen, isn't it? In this particular life, everything is determined. How many days is based on how many times we will be breathing. Every life is determined based on the number of breaths that we are allowed to have in this body. So therefore, the importance of cultivating this knowledge and to learn to be actually happy and satisfied, especially by the cultivation of spiritual or transcendental knowledge. This is, as we have been discussing in the last few days, and as the Bhagavatam also instructs, this is best achieved or acquired when we simplify our lifestyle, when we learn to be happy with whatever comes in a more simple, natural way. And therefore, one avoids to get into situations that are that fall in the category of over-endeavoring, and we should, as devotees, hear instructions that help us, especially regulate our lives. From an reference recorded to especially householder life. Householder life is especially meant to regulate the activities of self-gratification. We could say that in the other ashrams, one is meant to stop activities of sense gratification, whereas in household life, the ultimate goal also is the same. The ultimate goal in it is the same, to stop activities of sense gratification, and particularly in the matter of sex life, because that is the common, you could say, the common denominator, the common problem, or the root of all of the problems in the world, and the most difficult actually to overcome. And that sense gratification ultimately means sex life, or is displayed in sex life, either gross or subtle. So all of us are actually battling with this problem since we have been in the world. And family life, as also explained in the Bhagavatam, is the most difficult to give up due to this. If one is devoid of this knowledge, if one is devoid of this understanding, one will simply engage in activities of sense gratification, and therefore most people who are not having this understanding cannot give up family life. Example of Arjuna himself. Arjuna, although educated, born in a Brahmana family, must have come from Brahmana's tradition, training, and he was already married as a young man. Still, the sense of being very strong, he allowed himself to be distracted and left his dominical lifestyle. And for the rest of his life, up until the age of 87, or that he was in his mid-80s, getting close to 90, and still having sex life at that time, even because he had a young child, over just a few years of age. So I remember in the train one time meeting one person who was telling that, yeah, I was born when my father was 75. So if your father is 75 when you're born, well, your father might not be around or 10 years old. 75, that's already finished. That's when the Vedic culture is recommended that one should marry within a certain age, generally within the age of 30. One should marry. Actually, married life begins at a much earlier age. For example, the Vedic injunction for ladies, for matajis, is that they should be married. When should the ladies be married? At the age of 18. No. The Vedic injunction is that young lady should be married before she reaches the age of puberty. It's a modern day society that is unthinkable, right? And even as devotees, we don't quite understand that, and we don't follow it in general. But there's a whole psychology and explanation behind it. Prabhupada explains actually in one lecture how it is natural for a young lady to search out for a husband. Because by nature, that need is there to find someone who will be protecting her. And so Prabhupada explains that if that is not already settled, then when she does reach the age of puberty, she will on her own incline to start looking for someone. And that will lead into more complications. Yeah. So therefore, the Vedic culture, marriage is actually this again cannot followed our Indian society, far from that, and it can only be understood when one takes up to spiritual life. There is it's a whole subject matter, of course, which has to do with understanding the psychology. First of all, the general psychology of human beings, and then the specific psychology that is there for women, and there's a different type of psychology that is there for men as well. So the Vedic literatures are full of information regarding not only how to take up the spiritual life, practice spiritual life, but also how to deal with nature, isn't it? In a matter of marriage, in a matter of sex life, in a matter of occupation as well. We've been discussing how we find this explained, especially in the seventh chapter of the Bhagavatam, when Narada Muni thoughts extensively on the subject matter of Varna and Asana, that the more natural, simple occupation, which is more conducive for taking up the spiritual life, is that occupation connected with material nature, specifically agriculture, and caring for cows, because we are in contact with material nature, when we are surrounded by cows, we more naturally, more easily, more quickly develop actually the moral goodness. When the modern day society has put that aside, this connected itself actually with nature, with cows, therefore naturally we can observe, we can see how people are generally much more. So in other words, Krishna makes both the spiritual, there's a whole spiritual process, and there's a whole material process by which we can reach or attain the desired goal in life, which will help us become disentangled. But when we don't follow that process, then the end result is that we become more frustrated, more entangled, more confused, more anxiety, etc. like that. So in other words, Vedic knowledge is Vedic culture, Krishna consciousness is simultaneously very helping us to meet both our spiritual needs of life as well as our material needs of property. So therefore, as Prabhupada begins in the purport, he refers to a completely bewildered material civilization. As devotees, we are meant to bring about some changes by cultivating this knowledge. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. You got the proper injection. Is it the real vaccination? Any comments or questions before everyone leaves? Yeah, please.
One should satisfy the senses only in so much as required for self-preservation. One should satisfy the senses only in so much as required for self-preservation and not for self-act.
Yeah.
And so that's why also we hear that we should, what is spiritual endeavor only to keep body and soul together.
Good.
But that keeping bodies and soul together, that might vary for person to person.
Yes, those who have big bodies, they tend to bodies.
So
we have to learn how to, there's a constant balance.
Like yesterday we had a question around that after your discourse. Sometimes people who are living in the urban environment,
Modern lifestyle.
So although they are not trying to enjoy the senses, but that becomes their standard. That becomes like a kind of need. That's what is standard actually.
Yeah,
so where we draw the line right there, where we can have that keeping soul and body together. What is that? How we can measure that?
Well, as you rightly mentioned, it will actually vary from one individual to another because we're all different. Different size, different colors, different everything. In the Vedic literatures and Vedic culture, what is important is to understand basic concepts, basic principles, and then we try to follow those basic concepts according to ever-changing situations in the world. Like our own body is also changing all the time. Sometimes we see someone when he's maybe 15, he's still quite well. In that period, the body is still developing, but even after the body has gone through the natural changes that are meant to take place during the especially years of adolescence. Later on in life, sometimes the body changes for different reasons as well. So accordingly, we have to adjust to what we can eat or what work we can be doing, etc. like that. But the basic, you could say, concepts and principles don't change. And therefore, the more we understand those basic concepts and principles, then we should endeavor all the time to be as close as possible to those concepts and principles. And they will vary, just like, when we serve prasadam to different people, the appetite is different, the body is different. So you can't criticize somebody who shouldn't have eating more than the other person sitting beside him. Basic principle is we should eat according to what we can digest, isn't it? But that's only possible when our senses are controlled. Because if we're not learning the art of sense control, then the senses are very strong and they will demand more chapatis or more rasgullas, usually more rasgullas than chapatis. So therefore, learning these basic, you could say, formulas, like formula. This is often quoted by Srila Prabhupada in the verse, Jivasya Pratyasa or Atatu Brahmajigyasa. They both convey the same message that the human form of life primarily be inquisitive as to what is the primary goal of life. And as devotees, we need to remind ourselves every day, okay, actually, this is the primary goal of life. Therefore, as devotees, we mold our lives in such a way that we can gradually come closer to what and eventually realize the primary goal of life is to increase our spiritual awareness, minimize our material angle to the world, and that takes on so many different forms. That means in a matter of what they call in the Bhagavad Gita prescribed duties. So there are specific activities which are more conducive for practicing spiritual life, which are mentioned in Shastra. So that is something that we are meant to learn, at least each one of us individually, because we are all individuals. And what may be a particular standard for one devotee will be different for another one. But some of the basic standards will be the same. For example, we follow the four basic rules and regulations, which help us, and only by following these particular four we call principles, can one become situated in goodness, which we know from Shastra is a platform from which we can more easily rise to the higher platform beyond goodness, which means activities of devotional service. So like this, actually, when we read these different verses, these different instructions in Shastra, then we should endeavor to capture the essence of what is being conveyed and to understand these different concepts and principles. There are many very essential, aham brahmasmi, I this body. Well, that's theoretically one thing to know or understand, but then to actually realize it is something else, which comes gradually as we apply or follow the process that is given there. Prabhupada would say, Vedic culture, for example, first is character. Many times Prabhupada would say, first is character, first is food. These are like short mantras, that are full of meaning. Prabhupada would quote particular verses, and he would, go on speaking on that one particular verse or theme that is there for 1 or 2 hours. So we need to know these different very important messages that are being conveyed. These literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, and accordingly mold our lives centered on this. And that is how naturally, automatically, we will, as we increase our understanding, and that understanding is being helped by super soul, by Krishna within the heart. The more we become fixed up in more goodness, then Krishna begins much more to reciprocate to help one progress. So it's important to understand how Vedic knowledge, Vedic culture, Vedic lifestyle is addressing in the most ideal manner these two levels of needs that we have. We have spiritual needs, we have material needs as well. But we know that the spiritual needs are the most important, and we also know that we at least need to meet or satisfy the basic material needs of the body. We do have to eat. And what is advised and directed in the Shastra, the more we can follow that, then the more we will be successful ultimately meeting the basic needs of the body and ultimately simultaneously developing our spiritual hankering, which is